Good morning. I'm going to call this meeting of the Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District to order for Wednesday, August 23rd. We have a couple of noted absences, but otherwise, if we would please read the roll.
Good morning. Director Aquino? Here. Karpinski Costa? Present. Desmond?
Here.
Frost? Here. Hume?
Here.
Kaplan? Here. Maple?
Here.
Robles?
Here.
Cerna?
Here.
And Sander.
Here.
And you have a quorum.
Very good. And Director Maple, if you would lead us in the pledge.
Pleasure. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Would you please, Madam Clerk, read the public comment procedures and any other necessary statements?
This meeting of the Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District and Sacramento Area Sewer District is being broadcast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T Uverse cable systems. This meeting is closed captioned and live streamed at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting will replay Sunday, August 27th at 9 a.m. on Channel 14. This meeting can also be viewed at youtube.com/Metro Cable 14. In accordance with the Government Code 54952.3, compensation for a meeting of these legislative bodies is required to be verbally disclosed. The amount of $100 will be paid for each member participating today as a member of the Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District, and the amount of $100 will be paid for each board member participating today as a member of the Sacramento Area Sewer District. Compensation for Sacramento County Supervisors and City of Sacramento Council members is paid to the county and city respectively to partially offset the cost of those governments. Compensation for other board members is delivered to the individuals. To make an in-person public comment, please complete a speaker request form and hand it to the clerk. The chairperson will call your name when it is your turn to make a comment. To make a public comment by phone, dial 916-875-2500 and follow the prompts to be placed in queue for a specific off-agenda item. Clerk staff will transfer each caller into the meeting. You may be on hold for an extended period of time, and your patience is appreciated. You may send written comments by email to boardclerk@saccounty.gov. Your comment will be routed to the board and filed in the record. And that concludes the announcement.
Very good. I think we are ready to take up our agenda, and items 1 through 4 are next up.
Move consent. Second.
Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on these items?
We do not have anyone in queue, and I did not receive a speaker request form for that item.
All right, very good. So I heard a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Let's do a vote on that, please.
I'm sorry, was that Director Hume who seconded?
Sure.
Sure.
I know that.
Okay, and please vote. And the motion carries with those members present.
Look how fast that is. Isn't that awesome? We need that at SACOG, is what we need. Okay, that brings us to item number 5, which is public comment on items not posted on the agenda. Do we have anyone?
We do not have anyone online, but I believe we do have one person in chambers who would like to make a public comment. 3 minutes? Okay.
Come on up.
Hi, good morning. I'm Robin, and I live in my 160 square foot semi-off-grid tiny home on wheels on my undeveloped residential property in the city of West Sacramento. I was hoping to get an update on any further research regarding a potential proportional impact fee option for tiny homes. The city of West Sacramento is going to be presenting a tiny home on wheels ordinance to the Planning Commission next month, which is exciting, but even if this becomes legal, I fear the cost of impact fees, permits, materials, and labors for the project will still be unattainable. I'm concerned I still will not be able to afford or qualify for a construction loan in the amount that is needed for this project. Most construction loans have high interest rates and require you pay the loan off in 1 to 2 years. I've already been told by lenders that trying to get a construction to permanent loan, which is the traditional way to build a traditional home, will be very difficult or not possible due to the unique situation. This is the reality when you are one of the first tiny home on wheels primary residences in the state of California. When the permits, fees, labor, and materials cost more than your home, something has gone wrong with our building process. The ordinance will alleviate some of these cost burdens, but the lack of options with financing will be my next obstacle and journey to navigate. So I need my government, in the words of our very own board member, Rich Desmond, to leave no stone unturned in regards to finding the justification to allow fee options. So I appreciate any work on this. And I know, Christoph, the reduction might not be much, but that is subjective and could make or break the average middle to low income earner, especially when there are so many compounding fees to pay for this process. I've said this before, but I'll reiterate. I am someone who owns a home, owns land, is healthy, has a full-time job with benefits that requires a degree, and I am still defined as homeless. I have been threatened to vacate my home and property and discriminated against due to the negative stereotype of people who live in homes with wheels over this 3-year saga. If it is this difficult for someone like me to seek stability, I ask you to please remember this when you allow sweeps of our unhoused communities to continue in your areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments?
No, sir, that was the only.
All right, that takes us on to item number 6.
Item number 6 is the Echo Water Resource Recovery Facility Biosolids Emergency Declaration and Emergency Action.
So the issue we have is we need 13 members? 14. And we do not have 14 to vote on this item. I've been told by council that we can continue it. I guess the question here is, do you want to hear the presentation now, but you won't be able to take an action on it, or do you want to go ahead and continue it on to our next available meeting, which would be September 13th?
What's the preference?
I would move to continue the presentation and the item.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair. That's fine. I support the motion. I just like to understand, though, this is an emergency, so what is the practical impact of having to wait?
There isn't one at this point because we have entered into the contract under the authorities that I have delegated down to the district engineer. So the contract will continue. It's a matter of the board taking the proper action at the next scheduled meeting.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions on this item? I know we were all notified. I think we were all notified by email as well. Okay. We have a motion and a second to continue the item.
And that was to a date certain, to 9/13.
Yes, September 13th. And I didn't hear the second. Thank you. Please vote. And the motion carries by unanimous vote to continue the item to September 13th.
Very good.
And we did not have any public comments on that item either.
Yeah.
Item number 7 is a presentation on the scientific study investigating factors contributing to phytoplankton biomass declines in the lower Sacramento River.
And I'll wait till the presentation is
Okay, here we
loaded
go.
for us.
There we go.
I can't tell you how excited I am. We're having science.
Me too.
All right, excellent.
So, good morning, Chair and members of the board. My name is Tim Musson, and I'm a scientist in the scientific research section of the Policy and Planning Department at Regional SAN.
We need the item 7. That's item 6.
Oh,
That's going to be a tough one for you to present.
is that right? Oh, thank you. Yeah, that would be really winging it for me.
Metro Cable, I don't know if you heard, but we're moving on to item 7 because item 6, there will be no action. Thank you. They're switching the PowerPoints in the back. Thank you. Okay. There we go.
There we go. The river lets us know we're there. So, thank you all for this opportunity to present the research on a scientific study that we conducted investigating phytoplankton declines in the Sacramento River. Oh, I have to do this. So today I will present a visual summary of the project for you. And what we have here is a map of the study area in the Sacramento River that begins north of Knights Landing and then continues downstream past Sacramento City and ends near Isleton, where the river merges with Cache Slough. And you can also see on the map the location of the Ecowater Resource Recovery Facility in Elk Grove, and the star indicates the position of its discharge point into the river.
Mr. Chair, before the speaker leaves this slide with the map, I'm fairly familiar with the upper reaches of the Sacramento River, but is this indicating that it includes the Feather River as well?
So the Feather River merges into the Sacramento
Understood.
in the northern region of our sample area.
Okay, I just heard you say north of Knights Landing, but
Right.
that would be the Sacramento River.
Yes, the Sacramento River. This is all an image of the Sacramento River on the slide.
No, I don't think so.
I think
It's
the Feather River comes in here to the
That,
Sacramento.
yes, that's the Feather River. The Sacramento River goes west at that point. That's the confluence.
Oh, have I got it? So the Sacramento then
Yes,
is
exactly.
running right down through here, right?
Correct, correct.
Okay. Yeah, our map was a little bit off. Thank you for the correction.
Yep.
I appreciate that. So on the right, I've provided a simplified aquatic food web for the Delta. And the food web starts with phytoplankton that are small microscopic algae that live in the river and grow on sunlight and nutrients. And they feed zooplankton, which are small invertebrates that in turn feed a variety of delta fish. Freshwater clams also inhabit the river, and they can eat both the phytoplankton and the zooplankton and therefore reduce the amount of food that's available for delta fishes. And recent research has found that many native species of fish in the delta are currently limited in their growth and survival by low food availability. And therefore, it's concerning that the phytoplankton concentrations in the river decline as the water moves downstream toward the delta. And in the past, some scientific researchers suggested that high ammonium concentrations from wastewater effluent in the river were causing this phytoplankton decline. So in 2016, we conducted a study looking at multiple factors that might be contributing to this phytoplankton decline to understand their relative effects. And what we found was that the largest decline in phytoplankton occurred where the Feather River and the American River joined into the Sacramento. And the arrow is pointing down to the Sacramento. I'm sorry for the misplaced river on the map. Both of these rivers had similar flow velocities at the time of our experiment and flow volumes, so that when they merged together, the concentration of phytoplankton declined because they had much lower phytoplankton concentrations. And overall, this dilution caused the greatest amount of decline in phytoplankton in the river. We also surveyed the amount of clams throughout the study area and found that there was one region in the northern river where they were particularly abundant, enough so that they had meaningful phytoplankton loss up in that region. The lower river also is twice as deep as the upper river, so phytoplankton traveling through the lower river receive less sunlight and therefore grow at slower rates, which contributes to the decline. Overall, the tested factors explain 76% of the phytoplankton decline and indicated that the majority of it occurred upstream of the Ecowater facility's discharge location. However, there was some decline that continued in the lower river, and it was greater than what was explained by the measured factors. We think that some of this loss might be due to the Sacramento River transitioning into a tidal region of the delta. So during high tide, the river flow will cease for a couple of hours in the lower river, which might let the phytoplankton sink down to the bottom of the river where they can become buried or consumed by clams. The project also determined that there were some factors that were not having an effect on phytoplankton survival. The growth rate of phytoplankton in water samples collected upstream and downstream of the wastewater discharge location both grew at similar rates. And this indicated that the ammonia in the wastewater was not affecting the growth of phytoplankton. And I might have forgot to mention in the beginning that these studies were conducted in 2016 prior to the Echo Water Project upgrade, so ammonia was present at that time. We also sampled the amount of zooplankton in the river. Because they eat phytoplankton, they can be a source of major phytoplankton loss, but the zooplankton concentrations were very low in the Sacramento River, and therefore they were not contributing meaningfully to the phytoplankton decline. We contracted USGS to study the amount of current use pesticides in water samples that we collected through the study area. And they found that among 162 different pesticides, none of them were at concentrations that were harmful to phytoplankton growth and survival. Earlier this year, the findings from our study were published in the peer-reviewed journal San Francisco Estuary and Watershed Science, and a link to that is shown in the bottom right of this slide. We hope that the findings will inform nutrient and phytoplankton management strategies in the Delta into the future. And I thank you for your time in hearing my presentation and would be happy to answer any questions you have regarding this study.
Questions? Mr. Cerna?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the report. Anyone that's been on the water at the confluence with the American, especially in the Sacramento, knows that there's a pretty dramatic difference in opacity of the water due to sediment in the stream. So is that also having an effect based on the conclusion that most of this change is coming from both confluences?
Right. So the American River, when it enters, has much lower phytoplankton concentrations in the water and much clearer water.
Right.
So it gradually mixes as it heads downstream.
Right.
And so as it does so, the clarity of the water increasing with the American River allows for faster phytoplankton growth, but overall, the reduction in concentration that occurs due to the extra flow coming in causes a large shift down in the overall concentrations of the phytoplankton.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
Director Hume?
Thank you, Chair. I apologize if I missed this part of the presentation relative to what causes the phytoplankton growth in the upper American River, but kind of along the lines of Director Cerna's questioning, why does phytoplankton not grow in the Feather and American rivers? Why is that causing dilution when it enters the Sacramento River?
Right. So our study didn't specifically go far enough up to look at the growth parameters occurring within the upper level of the Sacramento beyond the survey area or the conditions that occur further up through the American and Feather. But my guess is that the rivers are a bit shallower. And so as the light can penetrate to the bottom, you end up growing attached algae. And not so much free-floating chlorophyll that you would have in a more turbid system. And so I think that's one of the reasons. They also are lower in nutrients, probably because it's being utilized by the aquatic plants and attached algae within those systems, so that when it's coming into the Sacramento, it's at lower chlorophyll levels.
Okay. And then two more questions. The first is there anything other than higher river flows, because you mentioned the phytoplankton sinking to the bottom during the tidal influence, Other than higher river flows, is there anything we can do to encourage more phytoplankton growth? And the second question is what is their resistance to salinity? And is the saltwater intrusion that's happening up into the delta also a factor?
Okay, so in terms of the river flow, right, what I meant to emphasize is the volume of dilution that's coming through. When it gets down into the tidal lower section of the river, even during really high flood years, you can push the region where the tides reverse further and further downstream, but but having a shorter time for the phytoplankton to grow usually results in lower overall chlorophyll. And so it's unlikely that we can change where the tidal magnitude in the river is really pertaining for that lower section of the river. But for people looking for management strategies to grow greater amounts of phytoplankton, we found that if the water gets put into a very still region of the river, we tested behind the Delta Cross Channel when it closed, then the phytoplankton will grow at a much greater rate because it has extra time to sit there and produce itself and utilize those nutrients that are present in the water. In terms of salinity, typically the ocean intrusion of salt occurs further downstream throughout Sassoon Bay and other regions, and there's a whole spectrum of marine phytoplankton that can live in that brackish and saltwater conditions. So in general, while the species composition might shift, you'll still have productivity and growth even in the presence of higher salinity. But it will be a different species of phytoplankton for the most part that grows there.
Okay. And so then to kind of put a finer point on it, it would be safe to say that putting a new intake facility for a conveyance project higher up in the delta would probably not be good for the phytoplankton growth. And that's more than a hypothetical question, but it's almost a rhetorical question. So don't hurt your brain too hard thinking about it.
Yeah, I guess the question is, which region of the river are we trying to grow the phytoplankton in relative to the intake? Is that upstream or downstream of it? And in the area where they're planning to construct the intakes within the Sacramento River is one of these lower concentrations of phytoplankton at the moment. But it's also within a very important migratory pathway for salmonids and salmon and other species that travel through that area. So having food available during that migration period is important. So having another intake is not necessarily going to affect the overall speed of the river to the point where it will alter the amount of phytoplankton that can grow. But there are many other ecological consequences that can come from having the flows altered and intakes present.
All right, very good. Director Maple. Sorry, was someone else on my left? Any other questions? I'm going to forego the virology questions. You and I will do that on the side. If you still have all your samples, we could do something really interesting there. But how many samples and sites, just give us an idea of how much work this was?
Right, so I believe there was roughly 14 locations along the river, and also we were sampling within the mouth of each of the tributaries to understand how much loading was coming in. We created we hired consultants to look at the hydrology at the particular point in time so we'd understand the relative flow volumes from the different rivers and how much of the flow at each of our sampling locations at that point in time had come from the different tributary sources. The phytoplankton growth experiments were done through a specialist consultant who knew how to look at stable isotope concentrations within incubations of phytoplankton that were measured within a specialized lab at Davis. And We actually eventually created a clam trawl so that the regional SAN has a research vessel that we were deploying off to the side and pulling for a minute to see up to 1,000 clams coming up in a basket off the bottom of the river. So that was new and conducted through our laboratory. Hundreds of samples were taken and processed by the environmental laboratory at Regional SAN for the project. And while I didn't get into phytoplankton enumeration, we needed to know the taxonomy of the phytoplankton that were present within the samples. So samples were shipped out to find out whether we were growing good quality phytoplankton within the river. And I can say that 98% of the biomass is made of diatoms, which are perceived as a high quality food for growing zooplankton and fish in the river.
Very good. And just so the impact of this study is understood, Echo Water, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong because this is a while ago, but Echo Water was sort of forced upon the district and the region based on the conclusion that ammonia was responsible for the decline in phytoplankton lower in the river, which was decreasing fish concentrations. And what your study basically shows is that that really is not the case, at least according to this analysis.
Yes, I believe that within the Sacramento River in the area that we studied, ammonia was not a leading cause of phytoplankton decline.
It's sort of interesting in retrospect to think about the investment our region has made. At the time, a number of us stood at a podium and asked about the science. And we're given, a couple of weeks to, I think the quote that I was literally given from the board was, you need to prove that your discharge into the river is safe, which is philosophically asking to prove a negative. And in science, that is a rather hard thing to do.
Right.
This is approaching that sort of a level. Director Cerna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with your remarks. And I'm going to say this and maybe propose it, not so much in jest, but seriously at this point, based on the fact that we're now at completion of Echo Water. But is there an ability or is there any value in doing a post-Echo Water survey? Maybe we're already doing it, to demonstrate or prove that the Sacramento River is actually polluting our discharge?
Superb. That is an awesome hypothesis.
Let me just respond to that. I know it's partly in jest. There is a lot of research going on. There's a whole effort called Operation Baseline that looked at what were the river conditions before and now after. And it's a very complex system. The Echo Water project, as you're well aware, created some other benefits for the district. So it's not strictly just that issue about ammonia. But there is a lot of studying that's happening beyond basically showing kind of what happened before and what's now happening.
Thank you.
I just think this has the potential to be a remarkable sort of a case study, and that a policy decision led to a $2 billion investment by our region. Perhaps if we'd had better science or paid better attention to the science, we could have spent $2 billion in a more productive way. And I know there are other benefits, but this is a consistent problem. I'm now on my podium as an individual, not board chair. This is a consistent problem I see in, state level policymaking typically, in that something appears nice and, it's popular and polls well, so let's do it, but no one sort of bothered to add it up and figure out if the science and the economics made any sense. End of my personal comments.
And there are definitely opportunities to share this information with our industry associations. We go out and do papers on all kinds of things. I think your point about a case study is a good idea. So we can pursue that to some degree.
And Director Cerna's comment about repeating aspects of this to see post-Echo, what do things look like? Is that actually something we will do? Something that mirrors this effort?
So there has been a long-term ecological survey run through the IUP program that looks at ecological health at stations across the Delta on a monthly basis. And I think that that wide-scale survey, as it continues into the future, is probably the best way to look at the larger ecological changes throughout the Delta that might develop due to the reduction in nutrients that is now occurring in the Sacramento River. So it takes time for ecology to change. Some of the sediments might have to come to new equilibrium. The actual organisms living within the delta can hold on to nutrients and recycle it as they decompose and regrow. So it can take a long time period to really understand the full consequence of what a large system shift like this will cause. So monitoring programs are continuing, and I think that it's going to be an overall scientific community assessment that brings together a greater understanding of the Delta, and we hope to participate and encourage in that as it moves forward. I'd mentioned that we look behind the Delta cross channels, so more of some of our own future research is planned to see under those good conditions for phytoplankton growth, are we going to see less of it in the future now that we've reduced the nutrient supply? But other than that, I think that as we work with our collaborators in the scientific community, it'll be useful to see how the ecosystem will respond to the lower nutrients.
Very good. Any other comments?
I have a question about the pesticide stuff that you studied. Where did you sample the pesticides? Near the rice fields or not near the rice fields?
Yeah, so we sampled them basically every 4 miles down the Sacramento River where we were collecting our samples for this study. And when you look at some of the agricultural returns in the Colusa Basin or other areas, they would have higher concentrations of pesticides coming back in. But you know, it would mainly be the herbicides that target plant growth that might affect the phytoplankton. And while none of them were at concentrations that are known to affect phytoplankton, that's one of the areas where more work needs to be done. There's hundreds of different phytoplankton species in the environment, and maybe 2 or 3 have been tested against different herbicides. So it's an area of current study and deserves more attention. But yes, when we got closer to some of the ag inlets, the concentrations would increase.
I have to believe that pesticides had a greater effect on the level of phytoplankton than our ammonia would have, if we had ammonia.
Well, from what we saw within this study, both of them were having very little effect. So.
All right, any other comments? Very good. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. We should do this every month, I think.
We can't crank out that many studies.
We can hand out the papers the night before. You guys can read them. We can come here, have a discussion about it. I know there's a couple of science majors up here with me, so it'd be fun. No? Okay. We're moving on to item number 8, unfortunately. Not personal. Not personal. Unless you can whip out some science really quick.
I don't have what Tim has. So.
And we did not have any public comments for that item either. Item number 8 is the Echo Water Project Quarterly Report for April 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2023.
And can we have the presentation for number 8? There we go. So, good morning, Chair Sander, members of the board. My name is Mike Crooks. I'm Deputy Director of Regional Sand Operations and also manager of the Echo Water Program or project. And here today to give you an update, and we're planning for this to be the final quarterly update to the board because, as has been mentioned earlier this morning, pretty much all wrapped up. Major construction is done. The new facilities are online. They're operating per design. We're removing ammonia, and we're also providing filtration as was required. But since this is going to be our final presentation, thought I'd add a little bit more to the slides and actually take a look back at the program, kind of where we started, what we went through, what we built. And there are still some other activities related to Echo Water that'll continue for at least another year relating to closing things out, documentation, stuff like that. But for the most part, we're saying we're done.
The angels should be singing right now.
So we'll, again, a look back at the history, also touch a little bit on the financial status, the remaining tasks, recognition that EchoWater has received over the years in terms of awards, and then just a brief note about the team that delivered the program. So it seems like a long time ago, but it went by really fast. As many of you or all of you know, in December of 2010, we received a new permit for our discharge from the Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board that brought about these new requirements. Number one was ammonia removal, and that was to be done by May of 2021. And then filtration and enhanced disinfection is to be completed by May of 2023. Huge effort in a very short amount of time to get it done. The district mobilized really quickly, right out of the gate. They brought together a bunch of experts who know wastewater treatment and what it would take to achieve these goals, and developed a list of technologies that we wanted to test to find the most cost-effective method to meet the new requirements. So that was done. Based on that collection of technologies, we put out a project to build a pilot plant to test those technologies, and that was done in less than a year. And so by 2012, that plant was up and running. Also in 2012, the district started or commissioned the Program Management Office for EchoWater, consisting of blended staff, district staff, also consultant staff. Our program management consultant was Brown and Caldwell and HDR. And shortly after that, we managed to complete the environmental documentation required for construction, our CEQA document. So a great start. With respect to the pilot plant, this is kind of an unsung hero, at least today. Maybe back then it was recognized for what it did, but kind of lose sight of what it did for us. It identified the lowest cost options for meeting the treatment requirements for filtration and disinfection, but it also let us prove that we could meet our goals by not using prescribed design criteria that the state assigns for Title 22 equivalency. And that's basically the filter loading rate and also how much time our disinfectant, chlorine, has to be in contact with the water to achieve those goals. So we are able to prove higher efficiency with the filtration process, 7.5 gallons per minute per square foot of filter media instead of 5. That meant a lower or a smaller footprint for the filtration structure, saving roughly $50 million. And then equally, we proved that we could achieve disinfection with a shorter amount of time, contact time, again, shrinking the footprint of that particular facility, the disinfection contact basin, and saving another almost $50 million. In addition to that, we also proved that we didn't need continual addition of coagulant to meet our turbidity needs, saving chemical costs annually, significant. Just some real key figures that we talk about all the time. When the permit first came about and we didn't know what technologies we were going to employ, we had a high-level cost estimate for delivering the program of $2.1 billion. After the planning level work was done, the treatment technologies were identified, and we started to have more certainty in our construction bids, the official budget for EchoWater was lowered to $1.735 billion. And so we've been carrying that budget ever since for several years. The program consisted of up to 22 discrete different projects, some huge, some not so huge, some pretty small, but all happening pretty much at the same time. Both the planning, design, construction of all these concurrently was quite a task. At our peak of construction, we were spending basically $1 million per day, something that I don't think this region has seen prior to that. And also at the peak, we had quite a huge workforce at the plant, over 500 construction workers daily, not to mention consultant staff and district staff who are also working on the program. This slide represents some of the 22 discrete projects that we implemented as part of EchoWater. And basically, I'm showing this to show how much of the plant process area was actually impacted by EchoWater. Pretty much every place, every process, one way or another, was impacted. either directly because we had construction happening on top of it, or indirectly because there was a tie or a need to make connections here and there. But hugely disruptive, potentially. Meanwhile, we had to keep the plant running, meeting our discharge permit. Again, a tremendous effort by the district and its PMO to manage all of this. Something I think that's been noted quite often. I'm going to touch on some of the more significant projects. The first, the flow equalization project. This was one of the first major it was the first major project out of the gate. The purpose of this was to enlarge the basins and to line them with concrete and to provide other improvements so that they could be used for more purposes. Prior to this, these basins were used for handling untreated flow or partially treated flow. If we had high flows coming into the plant or we had maintenance needs where we had to divert flow. But by lining them with concrete and providing other improvements such as a washdown system, these basins can now be used to handle treated water if we need to. One of our compliance points is thermal compliance out in the river. And these basins, since we can now use them for treated water, we can run our treated effluent through these basins so it cools down before it goes into the river at those times during the year where we have difficulty with thermal compliance. And a lot of other uses. With the deepening of the basins, we added 100 million gallons of storage, which I would confidently say saved us over the last several years with high flows. It also tremendously helped our ability to do a lot of the interconnection work associated with the EcoWater projects where we would have to shut process down in order to make tie-ins. And when we did that, all flow goes to the basin. We have a short amount of time to get that work done and then bring the plant back online. So huge benefits because of this project. Just some slides, what it took to build a big mass excavation process or project or effort. The concrete lining of all the basins, tremendous amount of concrete, and a significant underdrain system to capture anything that might leak through the concrete liner and also to protect the basin from high groundwater levels. And so that's under the concrete. Again, other improvements that make the basins more versatile, moving different water in and out of the basins and discreetly into each of the individual basins one at a time instead of all at the same time. I mentioned a washdown system. In order to use these basins for clean water, after we use them for dirty water, we have to clean them down because that clean water, once it goes through these basins, it's then pumped straight to the river instead of being sent back to the plant for treatment. And this is just an image of the completed basins. There's still work going on. And you can see the BNR project to the right of it. One really risky part of construction, that was part of the flow equalization project. To make those piping changes, we had to cut into and actually remove a segment of our outfall pipe. That's the only way we can send water to the Sacramento River. And so we worked really closely with the contractor, Teichert Construction, developed an hour-by-hour plan to get this work done in that period that we had to get it done, because if we didn't, we were going to be in big trouble. So this little video is something that Teichert provided. I'm showing it, assuming we have time to do so, but it's very interesting. I heard there's another version that has music to it, but I didn't get that. So that's a prefabricated segment that needs to go in place. Here's the old outfall that's being removed, 102-inch pipe, next to a new segment of pipe that the flow equalization project constructed. The planning and precision of Teichert on this particular effort was super impressive.
Was that vault in place, or did you have to build it?
We had to build it around it. So there was no vault before then. And the final piece comes out, and then they have to prepare the foundation for the new piece.
Is this the new discharge valve, or is that something separate?
That is, are you talking about the effluent valve replacement?
Right.
That's separate.
Okay. big valve.
What's impressive is how that fit just perfectly.
Almost.
There's a lot of wringing hands going on as this was happening. They did encounter some difficulty getting the old pipe out. It was snug and tight, and so they had to work at it for a while. But that was it. The window that we had was 48 hours, and it took less. I don't think by a lot. I think maybe, 30 hours maybe. Yeah. Around once they start, they didn't stop. Another kind of a much smaller but key project to the success of EchoWater, the nitrifying side stream treatment process. It's that light blue highlighted rectangle towards the top of the photo next to our solid storage basins. The purpose of this project was to remove ammonia from our solids side stream flow coming out of the ponds and coming from our BRF, biosolids recycling facility. High ammonia load that would have otherwise really impacted the design of the BNR facility. So this process treats the ammonia from that side stream flow, and it also has a side benefit of producing an effluent that's high in nitrates, and it can be used to reduce H2S levels, odors, to incoming flow, and thereby reducing our chemical costs quite significantly. So a couple shots for this project. This is just a 3D design image. All of our design for all of our design for EchoWater was done in 3D. We'll get into that later. It's showing the construction of the basins adjacent to the ponds, and then the basins in operation. These are called sequencing batch reactors, meaning the water doesn't flow through each of them. They treat flow one at a time. They kind of take turns filling and drawing and stuff. So it's a very interesting process. Return activated sludge project. This is another unsung project, I think, for EchoWater. It was key for the BNR project. One of the process requirements for BNR is returning activated sludge back to the BNR, and that comes from our secondary clarifiers. So the sludge from secondary clarifiers has to go back to the BNR at a certain rate and be lifted or pressurized enough to make BNR work. And so these tanks, the return activated sludge pumps that they have would not work for BNR, so we had to replace all of them. There's 24 tanks, 2 pumps per tank, so 48 pumps that had to be retrofitted and replaced. It was a very challenging project because, again, the plant needs to stay in operation, and we need these tanks to treat our wastewater. So they're divided into 3 different batteries each, and we did this over a 3-year period, and each year we took out a battery of tanks to do these retrofits. And so I've got a few shots. Again, the 3D design image of the tanks, and you can see the pumps associated with those 4 tanks adjacent to them. This is one of the pumps. I don't know if that's a new one being pulled or old one being pulled or a new one going in, but that times 48. Plus, significant improvements had to be made to make them fit in this existing space. They're installed in a can that's already a preset size. We had to fit that can, and bigger pump in a can that held a smaller pump was quite challenging. We actually worked with a pump manufacturer. I think we developed this particular pump design specifically for this application. This pump had not existed before, and so that was kind of risky, but it worked. This just shows so that the 8 tanks towards the center of the bottom part of the photo, that is battery number 1 that's been taken out of service, and you can see the construction activity where those pumps exist. On to BNR. This was the crown jewel of EchoWater. This was the project required to achieve the ammonia removal. Largest project in the program. Dragados was a contractor. I think we know our history with them. 3D design image. This shows in the foreground you have what we call the primary effluent pumping station. This is a new pump station required to lift our primary effluent up to the BNR facility, and then in the background is the BNR basins themselves. Huge construction project, very tricky, very challenging, again, amidst other projects around them and also within an operating plant. Took a lot of planning, a lot of effort, kind of had a slow start, but we managed to keep things moving with the contractor. Tricky construction, very deep structures, deep, large pipes and other equipment, again, adjacent to our emergency storage basins and to the active flow equalization project. Very tricky floor and wall pour sequencing, so reinforced walls and floors. And then it was like a dance of cranes out there watching them. And then the completed facility. We were able to basically get all the basins operational probably 2 weeks prior to our deadline for meeting the ammonia removal requirement. So that was in April of 2021. Tertiary treatment facilities to meet the requirement to filter our water. This is a 3D image, again, design 3D image. This project was second in terms of size and cost to BNR at $300 million. Our contractor was Balfour Beatty. Construction started, I believe, in 2018. The contractor on this project did a fantastic job. We stayed ahead of schedule pretty much throughout the duration of construction. We completed most of construction, I would say, towards the end of 22. Our compliance date was May of 23. Commissioning work ensued, probably took a little bit longer than we thought, but we were able to meet that compliance date of May of 2023. Again, this project required a fairly large excavation effort, and it also contained very deep and significant pipelines and other structures and equipment. It also required construction of another new pumping station. This is the Filter Influent Pumping Station, or FIPS. In front of that pumping station, we've got a drum screen. Seasonally, we experience a significant number of birds that like to roost around our secondary clarifiers, hundreds of thousands of starlings, and every day through natural life cycle, they die, and they fall into our tanks, and they do end up in our effluent. We really did not want these birds ending up on top of our filters. It would make things very difficult in terms of operation. Require a lot of extra cleaning and backwashing, so hence we put this drum screen in front to capture those birds. Also, anything else that might blow into the tanks, plastics and tumbleweeds, stuff like that, that might otherwise make its way to the filters. This shows the filtration, or the granular media filtration structure. 20 different filters. It's a dual media filter, sand and anthracite. I believe it's 1 foot of sand and 4 feet of anthracite, which is kind of it's almost like an activated carbon on top. Treatment capacity of these filters is up to 217 million gallons per day. Anything above and beyond that has to go around filtration and then is brought back in to blend with the filtered water before it goes into the disinfection contact basin. This shows the facility close to completion, probably December of last year. Again, the filtration structure, next to it is the disinfection contact basin, which is basically a big tank covered with concrete. It's a little bit more than that, but that's what it appears to be. I talked about how EcoWater implemented and used 3D design, building information modeling. And we think this was key to the successful delivery of the program. It provided a number of benefits referred to as 3D, 4D, and 5D. 3D is the obvious. 3D imaging allows you to see the design better, as opposed to a two-dimensional drawing where you're trying to find conflicts or other issues with respect to design. It also allowed us to produce nice renderings to present, but I think one of the key things that it allowed us to do, it allowed us to bring in our operators who would be responsible for these facilities, and they actually put on virtual reality goggles, and they could actually walk themselves through the actual image of the facility that had not yet been built. And they could offer feedback to the designers like, no, this isn't going to work because of accessibility or for other various reasons. So they had a lot of really good impact and input into the design. 4D is where you tie the construction schedule to the elements within the 3D model. And by doing that, you can run it and you can actually see virtually a facility being built. And one of the key things that this did for us is because we had these models for all projects and put all the models together, kind of stitched them together into a federated model, and you could run it, and you could see if one project had an activity that was impacting another project that was adjacent to it. And so we could mitigate that and mitigate potential contractor claims or change orders associated with that. And then the last element was tying cost to the 3D design and the schedule. And basically that it made it easier to do quantity takeoffs for estimates, and it also allowed us to take a better look at what our burn rate was going to be through construction. So a tremendously useful tool. At the risk of boring you guys, this is an early version of the federated model, and you can see how it shows a progression of projects under construction at the same time. And if you've had enough, you can just tell me to stop, and I will. So we're flying in, that's our disinfecting chemical storage. Those are secondary sedimentation tanks. Looks like we're making our way. So site preparation, it's a project that got the entire plant ready for construction. This is the nitrifying side stream project that's under construction over by the ponds.
Doesn't look like it should have taken that long. Look how fast this is. Wow.
And then you can see the timeline on the bottom that's supposed to be tracking. So 2017, this is BNR under construction, the floors and the walls going in. I heard this referred to as the Death Star video clip. You'll see what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go.
There you go. Fire.
And if any of you have toured the BNR facility, this is the gallery underneath, the east-west gallery. It might look familiar to you. This is the primary effluent pumping station that delivers water to BNR. There's the PE channel extension that had to be constructed. Looking over at the FlowEQ project that's concurrently in construction. So. And then off in the background, that's the tertiary treatment facilities under construction at the same time. So I think we've made it to the end. Okay, so kind of wrapping things up a little bit, I thought I'd show the changing face of the plant over time. This is a 2012 aerial photo of what was once the Sacramento Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant prior to EchoWater. It's hard to tell, and I think I saw that there's a pointer. Oh, there we go. But up right there is where we constructed the pilot plant. And so that's the only EchoWater thing right now that's shown on this particular aerial. Fast forward, I think this is probably 2015, 2016. Flow equalization project is underway. You can see the footprint of the BNR. The flow equalization project actually pre-excavated some of the BNR footprint. And you can see kind of in the center to the left a little bit is our contractor trailer area, and it's starting to be populated on this slide. This is probably closer to, I lost my notes, 2018. The floors of the emergency storage basins are done. Still kind of early on construction of BNR is still doing the floors and starting the walls. But this was pretty much close to the peak of our construction activity. Again, you can see the contractor area, contractor area here, a bunch of trailers, parking for the construction workers. Very active site at this time. And this is, again, I think towards the end of 2022, facilities close to completion, and that's pretty much it. Cost. This is real brief. As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, we've been carrying a budget of $2.735 billion for several years. And the yellow shows that the projected cost that represents that particular budget number. Green represents actual costs incurred or expended up until the end of July. And as you can see the trajectory, it's pretty obvious that we'll be able to come within or underneath our budget. Next slide shows on the left total program expenditures. There's the budget, 1.735. We've spent under 1.6, so 90% of that official budget. $176 million left. Pretty sure we're not going to spend that. We will spend a little bit of it, but again, confident that we're going to be coming in under the official budget. Again, remaining activities, the FlowEQ project, it's had a tough time reaching the finish line, but both it and the tertiary treatment facilities we expect to achieve field acceptance this month, which means all contract work is done. The big lift now is to migrate all the documentation that comes from 12 years of design and construction into our document storage system, our computerized maintenance management system, Maximo. Just a huge lift, and we'll be doing that at least for the next year. But already we've made a lot of good progress, and our operators are able to access a lot of the information that has come from these new facilities and to use it to do their operation and maintenance activities. Continued closeout projects. We still have some cleanup activities going on with respect to paving and fencing and other things. We also have items that became apparent either during construction or during commissioning, items that were not included in the design of the project that we feel need to make sure that these facilities perform as intended. So we do have a number of projects like that going on. There is one more project we thought we might not have to do, and that was conversion of our old tanks for our old activation sludge project or process, the CO tanks. We may need to revisit that and actually implement that project. I mentioned a lot of awards. The next few slides, and I'm not going to go through them because there's a lot, but we've received a lot of recognition, a lot of accolades, and I think it's representative of the good work that was done by the district. That's the last one, and there's more coming. Lastly, our team. This is kind of the progression of the PMO, the Program Management Office. Upper left is a group of folks that kicked things off as soon as we got started in 2012. And then the next slides are kind of a progression and includes not only PMO staff, but also other district staff who in some way were involved in Echo Water. And this absolutely does not include everybody. Just about everybody at the plant had some kind of a role. Our operators in particular, they were huge. All the working groups touched Echo Water one way or another. But these are the happy faces.
What's the story behind the one photo? It looks like everyone's tie is cut off.
So that was Dilbert Day. The PMO consider themselves a bunch of nerds. So we thought it was appropriate to dress accordingly. So that was the uniform for the day. And that wraps up my presentation. I don't know if there's any questions or comments after that.
Sure, Director Hume.
Not a question, but just I want to congratulate the team. I want to congratulate the district. I mean, obviously, if we roll the time back to when we were fighting being mandated to implement this because we questioned the science of whether or not we were causing the problems that we needed to change the plant. But to come in under budget, ahead of schedule, and the magnitude of the project and the creativity behind the naming of the project. And then now we're into phase 2, which is how do we utilize the efforts of this project towards a more beneficial reuse right here within the region. And so that's the only thing that I would say is, first of all, congratulations. But second of all, now we need to be diligent that we're only putting as much of this great treated effluent into the river as we have to, and that we're keeping as much as we can to put right back to good use here in the region. So thank you and congratulations to everyone involved.
Thank you.
Here, here. Director Cerna.
Thank you. Yeah, I do want to offer my sincere congratulations to the entire team and the consultant team as well, and certainly all the contractors. It's really rewarding as a member of this this governing body to see a project of this magnitude come in on schedule, under budget, and I think we can all be very proud of it. There's still a handful of us that were there in 2010. Many of us actually were at the Regional Water Quality Control Board hearing, remember it well, hours and hours of testimony and minutes of deliberation by the board to come to this.
Seconds, I think.
Yes, to come to the conclusion that they did. But I think, as you made mention during the presentation, the mobilization that took place shortly thereafter was remarkable in itself. And I remember there was a field trip, if I recall, of this board to go out and see the pilot for ourselves and understand some of the science behind the filtration process at the time. And so I not only want to congratulate you, but thank you for over the years keeping this board very well apprised and informed about the progress, the science of what's happening with Echo Water, and the progress is obviously speaks for itself. So again, just want to thank you, and I'll never forget, being chair. I forget what year, maybe 13 or 14. Thrust in the middle of different contractual appeals issues, and so there was, it wasn't without a little bit of pain that we got to where we arrived. But I think as the awards speak for the project, again, we can all be very proud of the work done and the achievement that will serve generations of the member jurisdictions of the board very well for decades. So thank you.
Well said. Any other comments?
Just echo it. Thank you.
Before I go, I'm remiss if I didn't state your board's participation and support in the whole program throughout the life of it was tremendous and instrumental, I think, to its success, to put the trust that you did into staff and into leadership. Was, I think, key in being able to roll with the punches and keep moving things along. You mentioned that early on we had a lot of protests to bids. The board supported staff hugely. This would not have happened the way that it did without our board. And so I think that needs to be mentioned, as well as our operators, their participation, and then even the regional board. They set the stage for us, but they worked really well with us throughout the process. We needed their support and maybe a little bit of flexibility from time to time from them, and they gave it. So they were a helpful partner in getting this thing done.
Very good. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Really good. It wasn't science, but it was really great engineering with good graphics. I'm going to have to think, though, about that whole Angry Birds aspect of the plant. There might be an app in that. All right. Any public comment?
There were no public comments for that item.
Very good. We are moving on to item 9.
Miscellaneous Director and District Engineer matters.
want me to go?
Go ahead.
All right. I got a few things. One's a real quick, kind of a nice note that we received from a person who lived in this region for many years and took advantage of our Lifeline rate assistance program. And she was recently moved back east and sent us a really nice letter just thanking us for that little bit that she got from her rate assistance every year for all that time. So that was kind of a nice just reminder that this program does help people, and they appreciate it. So I want to let you know that. I just wanted to mention there was going to be a Harvest Water quarterly update presentation today. It's in the miscellaneous items at the bottom. It's just a paper report. Since we had other presentations, we thought we would cut that out, but the board letter says that you'll hear a presentation. So, and then the last thing, I was going to say that September 13th board meeting was canceled, but because of the changes here, we will have a September 13th board meeting, so that will be our next meeting. And I also wanted to mention, your board received the comments on item 11. When we get to item 11, that's the SAC sewer standard specifications. I just want to say that staff does not have an objection to continuing that item out to September 27th, which is roughly what the constituent requested. We don't believe that the documents they're basically used for development purposes, so we don't think they're relevant. But if they didn't get a chance to look at it, we don't have a problem with moving that out. And that's all I had.
All right, very good. Any comments or questions? Moving on to district consent matters, item 10 and 11.
So do we need to specify the continuance of item 11? Okay, so I would make a motion to move item 10 and to continue item 11 to which meeting?
September 27th.
The September 27th meeting.
All right, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Any public comment?
We do not have any public comment on items, the consent matters.
All right, let's vote.
Thank you. I'm sorry. It has to be just the regional sanitation, so I'm going to the sanitation the sewer district. So if just the members of the sewer district could please vote. Thank you. And the motion carries with those members present.
Okay, that leaves items 12 through 15, which are receive and file. Anything else to come before the board? All right, thank you very much. We are adjourned.